an institution is a blessing. Especially if it's been one of service and human uplift. It's a double blessing. We can't observe this occasion unless we first kind of get a little glimpse of who we are. So they used to ask the ancient black man, where did you come from, black man? He would invariably stand on the banks of the Nile River in the Mediterranean. He said, I came from a place where the mountains of the moon meet the headwaters of the Nile River and the great god Hapi lived. They call the Nile River Hapi because it brought that fertile soil down and it fertilized that lower Nile valley. And it gave them opportunity to grow and harvest pretty much year round. The baskets were always full.
Amen.
Around 3000 BC, a great African king by the name of Menes descended from those mountains and reconquered that lower Nile valley and started the first pharaohic dynasties of Egypt. The first pharaohs were black men. You gotta grab that. That's important. He went further. He established what they call the Egyptian mystery system. In that system, they believed that knowledge was power. They believed that knowledge was so powerful that everybody was not worthy to receive it. The knowledge was so powerful you had to be careful how you gave it to a wicked person because they misuse it against a weak person. And you couldn't give it to a weak-minded individual because it drive them slap crazy. You have to give them fairy tales. You have to tell them about the Easter Bunny to go down the road with it. The system of knowledge helped Egypt to expand its empire. We know that even Abraham came in there to get his knowledge. Came there, broke home, and fed them, took care of them. Each time they got in trouble, we took care of them. We watched Nebuchadnezzar, all them boys coming out. They didn't coming after Israel, they came after us. Egypt was the empire. They organized that even when Moses took the kids, the children across the Red Sea, they settled there in present-day Israel. That was still part of the Egyptian empire. They never left Egypt. Yeah, I see it. We got to understand this thing. Even when Alexander the Great came, Caesar came, the thuggish Romans, each one of them lived their knowledge in Egypt. It was our knowledge that we had been passing on through rituals. We had been passing on to those that had the intellectual capacity to move it forward. Even when Constantine came to power and incorporated Christianity as a religion of the Roman Empire, it was our knowledge that was the base of this. I'm not going to stand in the church and go through all the details, but you know what? The Immaculate Conception, all that came out of Egypt. The cross came out of Egypt thousands of years ago. Even Moses, we were doing the 10 Commandments. We had, but they said 100 or something. We found 42 negative confessions. It's knowledge. When the Germanic tribes descended upon Rome and sent Europe into a dark ages, they tore up everything. All knowledge was lost. It would be the priests of the Catholic Church then would take that knowledge and educate the princes of the Europeans. They didn't educate everybody, just the elite got educated. And those churches became the first monasteries, and those monasteries became the first universities in Europe. So the elite, the princes, learned to speak French and Latin. They learned the language of elitism, and they became very powerful. But God had another plan. There was a merchant class that started to emerge. They started to challenge the power of the aristocracy. And around 1688 in England, they had what they call a glorious revolution. That's why they made the king come out with some of his power. And now you had this merchant class move to the pinnacle of power. Masonry was right in the middle of that, because now the merchant class, as they started to gain power over the decades, they had to have a way of regulating that power. And in those Masonic lodges, when they first started watching them, they said these folks can elect their leaders. And when they have a leader change office, they do it peacefully. The French would arrest us when we come into France because they said, we don't want that stuff here. We got to keep our king in power. But eventually the French had to adopt fraternity, equality. They had to adopt those principles of Freemasonry. even here in the United States, when they started to move towards independence, it was the merchant class that did it, and masonry was right in the middle of it. Why did I go back there? I had to touch on this briefly because now we can understand the power of this thing. See, when Austin came into Texas, he said he needed the Negro slave in order to make Texas a productive enterprise. Stephen F. Austin said, without the Negro, Texas would fail. But there was something that got him because there was a catch in the game. Because Mexico had just won its independence from Spain. And the second president of Mexico was Vicente Guerrero. He was a half black and Aztec. They had Barack Obama back in the 80s. He was elected. That means Masonry was there. There are two major political parties in Mexico, the York right and the Scottish right. Sound familiar? They were electing people. This principles of democracy was our stuff. But the most warned us that the older Southerners believed that somewhere between man and cattle, God created this tertium quid, this intermediate thing, and called it a Negro. A simple, clownish creature, yet lovable within its limitations. He said, but behind that thought was a dark and sinister afterthought that the older Southerners also knew that perhaps by chance, some of them may regain their intellect. Some of them may wake up and recover their knowledge, their memory. And with their memory restored, that became a dangerous thing. So they said, we dare not let them. So they decided to build around us a wall so wide and place between us and any knowledge, a veil so thick that we would not even think of breaking through. If they called us reading and writing, we got whipped. This was a brutality to keep us in legal ignorance of ourselves. But Prince Hall and those boys figured it out. They said, well, we're going to join the British Irish Union. The British was recruiting us because we were raising hell in the islands. We was fighting folks from the time we got them slave ships all in the islands. They would bring us up here to we were fighting them here. All of the slave insurrections haven't been really told or well documented. When we started to recover this, we was fighting. So they said, we can't let these folks, because they knew that we knew how to run an empire. We had a system of democracy already established in the African Constitution that had moved from the Nile River Valley across the width and breadth of Africa. We were a strong and mighty people, but also them had to watch this. So they had to, Vicente became unelected, and then he got assassinated. Austin brought us in, he lied when he got over to San Antonio, so I'm going to bring him in as indentions. But as an incentive to his old 300, those first settlers that came into Texas, into this Brazos River Valley, and that's why you are here. You're on the westernmost rim of the Brazos River Valley. The Spanish explorers called this Brazos River Valley the arms of God. You nestled on the right arm of God. Interesting name. Austin told those original 300, say, for each Negro you bring into Texas, he would give them an extra 80 acres of land. A rich planter out of Alabama named Jordan Ellison Gross brought in 110 enslaved African men, women, and children. He walked them into this Brazos River Valley, and all told that rascal got 44,000 acres of land. His son, Leonard Waller Gross, got 66,000 acres of land. His nephew was Edwin Waller. That's Waller County right next door. Stay with me, it gets better. His great nephew was Jarvis Ellison Kirby. Jarvis Ellison Kirby had several plantations and got one when he married Helen Moore Swearingen, whose father was a medical doctor right here in Chapel Hill. He bought a plantation, they call that plantation Alta Vista, which is now Prairie View. But I'm saying this because Prince Hall Masonry was a movement. See, we came out of Boston, off of schools. We came into the states. We started migrating. We were one of the first, if not the first, interstate organization. We were organized. See, just a few miles down this Brazos River was a plantation called a Sunnyside Plantation. On that plantation was born Norris Wright Puny.
All right.
His father was Philip Puny, white plantation owner. He was married twice, but he had a slave mistress named Adeline Stewart. She had several babies for old man Puny, girls and boys. She convinced him to send the girls back to France and send the boys to Wild Street School for Negroes in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, ran by the Vashon family. The Vashon family was notorious Prince Hall Masons. They the ones took in Frederick Douglass and Martin Delaney. That's what Norris was educated. So after the war, he came back into Texas. He was a mulatto and he was educated. And he took over. He rose to power and became our first grandmaster right here. But Puny wasn't asleep. He knew that it took economic power to make this movement violent. See, his daddy showed him how they moved this cotton out of this valley. See, that cotton grown in this Brazos River Valley and the sugar further down in Sugarland built Texas. They built it on our backs. Free labor. We didn't give them nothing but labor. And they turned it into gold. And they rose to power. Wasn't no Houston, it was old Harrisburg. Galveston was thriving because of us. They said, well, y'all didn't do that. We laid the foundation. Austin said he couldn't do it without us. And we did it. But Puny figured it out. He rose to power as a politician in the Republican Party. Became the head of the Republican Party. He got guys elected, especially around here in this valley. William Holland over in Hempstead. Matthew Gaines over in Washington County. Walter Burton over in Fort Bend County. These boys brought revolution in Texas. They started reforming the prison system. They started reforming the insane asylum. They started building public education systems. We did it. Puny, as his political payoff, he got control of the docks in Galveston. He started giving out contracts. They said, we got to stop Puny. Because he was helping us to get land and buy land. And they messed around there and opened that bank up in Fort Worth, Fraternal Bank and Trust. Written by William Bill Gooseneck Magnet. So folks can now buy land, go to banks. The trail riders could have a place to bank. That's economic power. That's political power. Confederates said, no, we got to stop this. Because now Mason had opened that door and look at us. They tried to shut it and it's too late. They tried to, when they got back in power, Richard Cole tried to form them black codes and send us to the back door and back of the bus. It was too late. The veil was lifted. We started to come into our own. We started recovering our memory. We still recovering our memory. And we get stronger and stronger each day. We're learning this thing pretty good. We got a long way to go, but it started here. Right here. That's our occasion, y'all. That's why we're here. We're here about regaining this power to help our people rise. Our people all over the African diaspora need our leadership and need our help. We're working now with the World Conference of Mayors with the Gambia. The young girls in the Gambia can't even get sanitary napkins to go to school. Y'all need to watch this. Something we take for granted. They have to miss school when they have their cycle, which is natural. So we've been sending them napkins. We're going to show them how to build a factory, make their own napkins. So we told them, can y'all have a reusable? They said, no, we don't have clean water. But you can go dig down beneath their feet and find gold. Who's getting the gold? Same European powers. You gotta watch this thing. See, they're about dominating the earth. But they have a problem. It's us. We're that problem. We're that conscious. We know what crimes they committed. And they know that if we ever come to power, see, Barack messed them up. He messed them up. He messed up the earth. I went down to Colombia. The Colombians said, we've been watching y'all. We watch y'all with Brown versus Board of Education. We watch y'all with the Civil Rights Movement. We've been watching them. This is the mayor of Washington, Columbia talking. On the occasion when I went down there to visit him to sign an MOU for a sister city. We've been watching y'all all these years. He said, my people who have been out in these sugarcane fields in Colombia since the Spanish brought them there as slaves would never believe that a black mayor would come to this sugarcane field to see them. He said, by you being here, you represent hope. We want to connect with y'all. We want to send our kids to y'all. We want you to bring your kids here. We want to send them over to Africa. We want to send them so we can recover our memory and rise together. Let's continue this struggle. We got a grand master that we've elected. We need to get behind it. Get behind these programs. And we got to watch this other thing, because see, in Europe, they do it a little different. They have what they call co-masonry. Oh. You're playing, see?